What's up, guys? So we're out in the shop and today we're going to be working on the Sand My little project. Now this is going to be extremely experimental because I've never done this before. I've seen tons of videos, I mean hours and hours and hours of videos of people doing Damascus or forge welded steel or pattern welded steel, sand mines. I've watched a lot of those videos. That doesn't mean I have any skill in this particular area, but I feel pretty confident in being able to do this. Now, because this is going to be a series, I'm going to be releasing it in sections, so you're going to see the either success or failure of this project. And hey, if it doesn't end up working out, that's fine. Hopefully we both learn from that, and we'll try it again. I've got plenty of 80 CRV2, and I got plenty of railroad spikes, and we're going to end up making a Sand My with 80 CRV2 and railroad spikes. So whether I've got to make like 3 billets in the process of making this happen, it is what it is. I will tell you, even with all of those hours of watching videos for this, one of the best things or best bits of advice that I got were actually in the YouTube comment section on one of the videos that I released. And it was by, well, let's go right here. So this comment right here, and it's just saying, hey, if you're going to do this, make sure that you make this thinner, because whenever you go, like if I just took these and I stacked them like this, the 2 outer pieces with the railroad spike and then that center piece with the 80 CRV2, these 2 outer pieces are going to forge out faster than this piece. So instead of all of them forging and becoming wider this way as they go thinner, these pieces would just forge around this piece. So this wouldn't move as fast. So he said, make sure and make this thinner from the get-go. And I thought, that's a great idea. So what I'm going to end up doing today is we are going to forge all 3 of these pieces a little bit flatter and try and forge them into a little bit bigger pieces. And then we're going to surface grind them. By surface grind, I mean I'm going to flatten them because I don't have a surface grinder. But we're going to do that, make them flat, and then we're going to forge them together after that. We'll see how it works. This is either going to work or it's not going to work. Again, like I said, whether I got to do this 3 times, we're going to make it happen. So the next few videos are just going to be me focusing on a Sand My billet. Again, whether we have success the first time or not, we're going to end up making this happen. So let's get into it. I know this was a long intro, but I wanted you to know what we have going on. And let me go give you a little close-up of these right here. So we've got these. They're still in the shape of the railroad spike. And I've got the head of it right here. But just cut that off and then split them straight down the center. So we're going to go ahead, go out into the forge, try and get this figured out, and then we'll talk about it afterwards. So let's get into it. So we're going to take and use our rounding hammer to do this. This is one that I had made for me. If I can find the link for the guy who makes it, I'll go ahead and link that in the description below if you want to have one made. But definitely love this hammer. I've used it to forge pretty much every single thing that I've forged on this channel. Now, what we're doing right here is we're going to forge out this piece of 80 CRV2. Right now, it's about 1/4 of an inch thick, about 5/8 of an inch wide, about 5 inches-ish long, and I need to get it to where it's about 1/8 of an inch thick. So we're going to focus on just forging to the thickness, and if we get a little bit of extra length out of it, and a little bit of extra width out of it, that's perfect. By the end of this, we do get that. We get about an extra inch in length, and we go to inch wide from 5/8 of an inch. So get a lot of size out of it. The whole point behind going to an 1/8 inch thick is I want it to be 3/8 of an inch thick whenever I stack it to weld it together, so that whenever we're forge welding it and we're thinning it out to make it wider and longer again, we can have it go down to about 3/16 of an inch thick as the final result. So that's the plan, that's the goal here. We're just really focusing on our hammer control to make sure we get nice, smooth, flat strikes on there, so we don't create a whole bunch of indentions that we'll have to grind out later when it comes time to get these smooth to weld them together. But I'm just showing y'all the 80 CRV2 part because it's just rinse and repeat when it comes to the railroad spike, so I'm not going to make y'all sit through the forging of all of that as well, because this would end up being about a 30-minute video. Alright guys, we're going to pause for a second so that I can actually talk to y'all about where we're at. We've got our 3 billets here, so railroad spike, 80 CRV2, railroad spike. Now, they are all forged down into 1/8 inch thick billets, if you want to call it that, bar stock, whatever you want to call it. What we need to do now is get all of this ground flat. Now, we're not having to remove many imperfections because I got it really, really flat, but we need to get them all smooth so that they forge weld easily, and we want to get all of this scale off of there so that it has the best chance to forge weld together. But what I'm going to do is tonight I'm going to finish doing the grinding, and then tomorrow we will weld them together, weld them onto our rebar, and then go ahead and forge them into a billet. Hopefully. That's the goal. We're going to see how it goes. But let's go ahead, jump back into it, get this thing knocked out. So now we want to go ahead and grind it smooth so that when we put these together, we don't have a whole bunch of open areas that can cause inclusions in the actual steel whenever we start forge welding it together. So we want these perfectly smooth and to not have any indentions from hammer marks. So we went ahead and made sure we ground them down. Now, once we got them ground down, we just stacked them together with the 80 CRV2 in the center, and then I went and tack welded all the way around it. And these are just little welds. I'm not really trying to weld the whole entire thing. And then of course we tack weld on our rebar so that we have something to control this with. And you can see right there, it's just tack welds going around it, and then some nice welds holding the piece of billet to the actual rebar. So what we're doing right here is we heated up the steel, and we're just going to take the borax and go around the whole entire edge and get it put back into the forge. We're not going to start hammering just yet. So we heated it up, coated it in the borax. I probably put too much on there, but you know, better safe than sorry. And then go back in the forge with it, let it get hot again, clean it with the brush, and then go back with the borax, get it on there, coat it however thickness you want to coat it, and then we're going to put it back in the forge again for another however long it took to get it hot again. And then once we get it to where we're comfortable and it's bright, bright, bright glowing orange, then we're going to use our brush, scrub it, and then now we're going to start setting the weld. We're not really hitting it very hard, we're just getting nice taps on there to start setting that weld. Whenever we do our next phase of this, then we'll start really hammering on it. scrub it again, brush everything off, and then we're going to put more borax on it and coat the edge again. And I'll repeat, this is again my first time doing this, so this is hoping that everything works while I'm doing it. But now we're going to start doing a little bit harder hammer strokes and start drawing it out just a little bit. We're not going absolutely crazy because we're still trying to make sure that those welds are set. But then we start giving it some nice good swings on there. And you can hear the tone change whenever you actually get it nice and forge welded. So that's really what I was waiting for. And then I start focusing on making sure that everything is straight. And once we got that done, I took it off of the rebar and just started treating it just like a regular billet and used the tongs to control it from this point forward. Right here, we're creating the finger choil area, so we're actually showing where the handle's going to be versus the edge itself. And I plan on putting a decent arc on the spine of this knife. So we're just going to get the handle kind of how we want it on the belly of it, and then we're going to start curving the spine, creating that arc. And as you're going through and hammering and creating those curves, you got to remember that you have to flatten this while you're doing that, because as you start hammering on what we're doing right here, where we're starting to create the tip of the knife, every time you hammer to force that metal to narrow it down, it curves the blade and moves everything around. So you want to hammer it and then flatten it, and then hammer the edge, then flatten it, and make sure you're focusing on both and not creating a taco the whole entire time. And then once we get the shape to where we want it, all we're going to do is focus on making this flat, because for me, I want to keep some of the hammer texture, and I don't want to have to take and flatten this on the grinder. I want to be able to just do the bevels and clean up a few things and then actually leave the hammer marks. So we're really focusing on keeping it as straight as possible. And I think it turns out pretty good, but we'll talk about that in the outro. Alright guys, so let's go ahead and wrap up today's vlog. Now I'm going to start with the obvious little burn that we have going on right here. Whenever I was forging the profile of the spine, I hit it, it flew out of the tongs, smacked me right in the nose while it was still about 800 degrees is where it was at. It had just came down off of the glowing, and it was just nice and red. When it hit me, it hit pretty hard. That sucked. But it was so hot that it just like seared my skin right there. And luckily I had my glasses on because it hit the glasses, and that's what kept it right here as opposed to going straight into my eye. I mean, you can see the direction that it was going here. It's pretty rough. It hurts, but it is what it is. I did that, and then I picked it up and I kept forging because I was like, you know, work must go on. So that's what I did. But I'm excited about this. The forge welds stuck very well. Whenever I went and forged the tip out, nothing opened up. Everything stayed nice and tight. And just to give you an idea of what it's going to end up looking like, it's going to be that right there. Just a nice little drop point camp knife. We did forge it from about 3/8 of an inch thick down to 3/16 of an inch thick. So it's still going to be a good size spine and everything, but it's light, feels great. Another thing, I could have forged the bevels in right here. That would have been very easy, but I wanted to keep this thickness so that whenever I go in and grind in the bevels, the sand my where it shows is going to be a little bit higher on the blade. If I was to forge this a lot thinner, it would be in a different area. I've got an idea of how I want this to look whenever it's all said and done, so that's why I didn't forge in the bevels. But I mean, there you go, guys. Very simple. You know, one of the things that I used for the very first time, of course, borax. I got this from Lowe's. I went to Walmart. They didn't have any of it, so I scooped it up from Lowe's, and it worked out great. There you go. Nice little sand my drop point camp knife. Really going to turn out awesome. On the next video, we'll go ahead, get the profile nice and finished, go ahead and do the bevels, and then I'll do a little test etch to show you what it looks like. We'll see how it goes. Guys, thank y'all for coming by. If y'all would, give this video a thumbs up, share this video or one of my other videos. And if you haven't yet, bottom corner, hit that subscribe button so you get notified of the stuff that we have that's coming up. We've got a lot of forging things that are going to be happening, and I know that y'all been asking for that. This is just the tip of the iceberg, so we got a lot coming up over the next month. There's going to be a bunch of projects, a bunch of forging projects. I can't wait. Hopefully neither can y'all. Guys, you're probably going to have to wait a little bit because there's time between the videos, but it'll be fun. Thank y'all for coming by. Thank y'all for spending your time with me. Y'all have an amazing day. Y'all stay safe out there. I'll catch y'all next time.